Hello my friends, welcome back to our English channel. Today we're gonna talk about a very important topic because everybody who is thinking about getting a watch, or even the people that already have watches, had to face at some point. It's a big question, which watch should be my first one? And I'm gonna talk about a few models that I consider to be good first picks, like first watches to own. And we're gonna first start with the question, what does make a watch a good beginner's watch, a good watch to start your collection with? And in my opinion, it's not just a question of price, because some people start in their early 40s or late 30s, so they already have some money on the side and they can afford a watch for 5, 6, 7, 8K, even more, sometimes even more. I had some clients that started with a 15,000 euro watch. So it's not a matter of price, it's more the question, is it a watch that I can wear on the long run, that I will not get fed up with at some point? Is it a watch that I can sell relatively easy again if I want to sell it to change my collection? And will I lose a lot of money, or can I count on the watch to keep the value at some level? So these are the aspects that for me make a watch not only a good investment but also a good beginner's watch, because you can buy them almost blindly. Not completely blindly, please, but almost blindly. But there are a few models and a few brands that I can recommend for that. So let's start with the easiest no-brainer that you can get. It's basically everything you can afford from Rolex. And specifically, most people would say, come on, we're talking about Rolex, you know what the beginner watch is, it's always a Datejust 36. But for some people that start in their late 20s, 30s, they don't want to get a 36mm because they believe it's too youthful, it's too young. Yeah, it's a watch that is considered a beginner's watch, and some people, even when they buy their first watch, don't want it to seem like it's their first watch. But I can tell you, with a Datejust, you're never gonna do something wrong. You will always have the value at some point. You will not lose money on the watch if you sell it again after a few years. But you can always go for a Submariner if you want to. You can always go for an Explorer, especially the neo vintage pieces, like the ones that started in the late 90s, beginning of the 2000s. They have very good calibers, so you don't have to service them too often. You can count on them to make a good progress in increase in value, and they are timeless classics. So in my opinion, those are watches that you can get. If I would have to pick a specific model, I would always say get either a Datejust or an Explorer 36, which I consider to be more beautiful, more sporty than the Datejust itself. The Datejust is always highly depending on which dial is on it and which bracelet. For example, the Oyster bracelet is way more difficult to sell again if you want or need to sell it at some point again. But I will not talk too much about Rolex, since I believe that most people already know. I think most people, when they start thinking about watches, they always start thinking about Rolex first. So let's go to other brands that have good alternatives that may be a little bit more undercover, a little bit more subtle for your daily use. And the next brand, of course, needs to be Omega. And Omega has a very big variety of watches that I can recommend for beginners. The most easy one is the Seamaster Reduced, because it's a relatively cheap watch. You can get it for around 3,000 euros. If you want to have papers, boxing papers, then you need to spend a little bit above that. If you want just the watch in a good condition, you can even get it for less than 3,000 euros if you can live without papers. But the Reduced has also some problems, some issues that for me, in my opinion, can make getting used to this watch world a little bit difficult. And for me, the main thing about it is the chronograph, because a chronograph is always something that needs to be taken care a little more, that is gonna be more expensive in terms of service cost, where you always need to also be sure that wherever you buy it, that you're buying a watch that is properly functioning. So if you're getting one from private hand, you can not be sure that it won't have a problem in 6, 7, 8 months. And if it has one, then it can be really expensive to get it fixed. So the Reduced is a good beginner's watch if you get it from a dealer, or if you get it from somewhere where you know that a service has been made. So if there are service papers or a service invoice or something, that's a big plus for the Reduced. But there are also other models that I can always recommend. For example, one of my personal favorites favorites is the Seamaster Pierce Brosnan. It's the vintage Seamaster, as many people would call it, with a lighter blue bezel, lighter blue dial or darker blue dial, with the classic Seamaster bracelet that a lot of people hate because, at least for a lot of people, it doesn't look good. But on the other hand, I know a lot of people that love the comfort, how it feels on your skin. So it's a watch that you can easily wear every day, that's very robust, that is very classy, timeless, and you can get it for a lot below 3,000 euros. I think you can get a good model for 2,500 euros approximately. So we have also other possibilities. For example, a neo vintage moonwatch. You can find it for around 4,000 euro, which is still reasonable, but you have a manual wind on the moonwatch, and also you have a chronograph, which makes it a lot harder to use, a lot harder to get used to. Most people that start their watch journey want an automatic watch, not a manual wind. So that's why I will not go on the moonwatch thing, but I will stay with the Seamasters, because also the newer Seamasters with the ceramic bezel, they are, for beginners, it's one of the best things you can get. You have a very precise movement, you have very high quality production, the dial looks beautiful, the bezel is shiny, so it looks a lot more expensive than it is, because you can get it for around 3,500 euros. So in my opinion, also a very good beginner's watch. I would say almost every Seamaster diver is a good pick, almost every Seamaster in total. Also the Aquaterras, for example, if you like more simple designs, can be a good pick. But for me, it will be the vintage Seamaster, because I like it personally a lot more. Then to continue with another brand that is also, I would say, in the same league as Omega, let's continue with Breitling. You can start either with Chronomat, which will bring also the chronograph function in it and make it more difficult. Same goes for the Navy timer, which will make the watch also, let's say, more expensive in maintenance. But if you want to keep it simple, if you want to keep it very, very cheap and on the low budget side, you can always go with a Colt, because a Colt is a very, very simple but also cool model for beginners. It has a very distinct design, very, I would say, even iconic, because everybody knows the Breitling Colt, just as the Navy timer. Those are the two models that I would consider mostly known from Breitling. But the Colt is for me the easier watch. It's easier to combine, it's easier to maintain, it's easier to have it. And you also don't lose a lot of money on it. If you want to sell it again, you can get it for a very good price. The problem with the Colt, let's say it like this, is that you need big wrist for it. I wouldn't say a very big wrist, I would say a relatively big wrist, because it is a fairly thick watch, it has a fairly thick case, so you need a wrist to match it. If you continue now, we will go to another brand and to a completely different model. So let's swap over to TAG Heuer, formerly just Heuer, now TAG Heuer. And the TAG Heuer has a lot of models that can be used for a beginner, that can be purchased if you want to start your collection. But one model that I will always prefer is the Aqua Racer, because it's very, very harmonic design. It looks like, I would say, almost every diver's watch with a diver's bezel and so on, but it has a ceramic inlay, so you cannot scratch it too easy. It has a very fair price on it. You can get it for well below 2,000 euros with box and papers, and you can get it in a lot of designs. So you have a big choice of watches you can get. You can get a design for every style that you would want to match it with. So the TAG Heuer Aqua Racer would be my pick. You can also combine it with a rubber strap, and you can also change it to the steel bracelet. So you have also a variety in this choice, which makes it very good daily use watch. And I know a lot of people that wear an Aqua Racer in their daily lives. If you get to see them on the weekend, they are all wearing Rolexes and APs and Pateks, but in their daily life, for their job, or for, let's say, things where you are required to do things that may be harmful for the watch, most people I know will go for a TAG Heuer, or previously for the Seamaster, for example. But that's the thing with TAG Heuer. And there's one brand there where I wish I could say a beginner watch from them is the nonplusultra, because I started with this one, and it's Cartier. But the Cartier Santos that I started with had such a crazy price development. It started when I bought one in 2021. I could get it for, if I remember correctly, around 2,000 euros. And now the price is well above 4,000 euros. And for that, you get it without papers, you get it in a very worn down condition oftentimes, and the Santos is definitely a watch model that you need to get in a good condition, and where I would always try to get it with papers, especially a beginner's watch I would always try to get with papers. That's why I cannot recommend the Cartier Santos as a beginner's watch, because it has a very special design. It's just the most simple watch to wear if that's your first one. So that's why I will go with a different one that has also a very special design, but at least it is a lot cheaper and you can get it a lot cheaper. And that's the Cartier Tank, which you can get for under 2,000 euros with box and papers. Of course, depending on the reference, depending on which dial is in it, but for most of them you can get them in a fairly good condition for under 2,000 euros. And for me, this is the most overlooked Cartier, because even though all the people know it and all the people love it as a dress watch, only a very small fragment of those people really have one or consider it for their collections. So that's a watch that I, for example, would always pick as a first one if I work a lot with formal dress, if I'm wearing suits, if I'm wearing more professional attire. So I would always go for the Tank. For me, like I look right now, I think it might be a little too dressy, but for most people, I think it would be a great watch to wear for every day in their job as well. And lastly, I will tell you my favorite brand if we're talking about beginners watches, and that's gonna be TUDA. Most people say it's the little brother of Rolex. For me, it's way more than that. You get the Rolex quality standard, you get the Rolex or a part of the Rolex designs for a relatively small coin. So you can count on the quality, you can count on the durability of the movements of everything without paying as much as you would for a Rolex. The best thing about it is that no matter which TUDA you get, you will always find it on the secondary market for a little less than that in price, of course. And if you buy it, then you almost certainly do not lose any money. You do not make a mistake, because TUDA, for example, is the brand that we sell second best, only next to Rolex. And that's also like a criterion that I would consider to be very, very important if you want to get a watch that you might have to sell, might want to sell at some point. So for example, the TUDA Black Bay 58, the TUDA Black Bay 41, the vintage one, then you have the chronograph, the Panda especially. Those are all models that you can sell to any dealer. No dealer will refuse to buy them. You will not lose too much money if you buy it for a reasonable price, and you can wear it even in later stages of your collection. So even if you have 10, 12, 13 watches, you might want to keep it because it's a good daily beater. It's a good watch to wear in your everyday life if it gets a little hectic, and that's why a lot of people appreciate TUDA even up to this day. So that's it for today. We told you what we consider to be good beginners watches, what we consider to have a really fair price, a good chance to increase or keep a stable price, of course, and also where you are not required to have something too special, that are not too special for beginners to wear. Thank you for watching this video once again, guys. If you want to see more watch related content, you can also follow us on Instagram, where we upload videos, reels, and also pictures of watches every day. And if you want to, you can also visit our web shop, where we also put all our watches in. So if you find something, you can always reach out to me by email or WhatsApp, or just call me, and I think we can work out a good deal for both sides. So thank you once again, and see you next time.